Russell Wilson has been traded to the Denver Broncos. Tom Pelissero reports that there is a deal in principle to send 9-time Pro Bowl quarterback Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. In exchange for...
All right, back now with you on Total Access with breaking news out of Green Bay. We go straight to Tom Pelissero on the details of what's going on with Davante Adams, who looks like the Raiders are acquiring him from the Packers. All right.
And welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is RichiRichEh of the MHRT Network, because it says so there just below my name. And if you go over to my right or left, depending on which way you are facing your screen, you will see Coach Defense of the Lockdown Defense podcast. Coach, how are you?
I'm good. Hello to Mama Smug. How you doing out there?
Oh, don't worry. I was about to say that, but you covered that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, what's going out there? Wild Wild West crew. We're back with another week of fun-filled adventure, to say the least.
Yes. I agree. And directly below is Mr. Smug himself.
Champion Smug.
Alex Gibbons from Arrowhead Attic. How are you doing, buddy?
It's Champ Smug, just to clarify. But I'm doing good. Ready to start jumping into the off season here. It's kind of a weird weekend being in the first one out football. I guess we had XFL, but you know what I mean. So ready to start looking at what next year is going to look like.
Well, the USFL and XFL had they've intentionally positioned themselves to effectively be feeders for the NFL in some regards. So it'll be really, really interesting to see which players and how many get picked up in kind of like late additions to rosters and whatnot. And some of them really did very, very well this past year in the NFL. And from what I know, there's at least a handful that are going to be sticking around longer term on some of their rosters as a result of their time in those leagues. So it's clear that it was a good thing that they opened up those leagues.
I also saw that Paxton Lynch for Broncos now the only QB to be benched in every professional league. So
I saw that. That's hilarious.
Milestones reached this last weekend.
Well, and let's not forget that it's clear that his video game playing days are not behind him.
I think you just get into real estate and call it a day.
Yeah.
Crypto, whatever. NFTs, I don't know.
He's like 6'8", so I don't think he can fit through most doorways. So probably a real estate agent is not his best career option.
Well, but what's happening, good buddy? How you doing out there?
That's awesome. And again, I wanted to just thank Mama Smug for joining us. I love the fact that the family joins and comes in to join us. I wasn't sure if you were ready there, Captain, so I didn't want to just bring you in and then you kind of yell and say, no, not yet.
It was sitting, so I thought it was fitting. Got his
I
luxurious
just
lock
got my
done.
beauty done. I just did, like I'm like Frida, the gal from Charlie Brown with my naturally curly hair, But
It looks very nicely coiffed.
it is, and that is why I apologize to the Smurf family and everybody else here. I apologize to my co-host. But when you have perfection like this, you can't rush it. You can't rush it.
Had like a hippie Jesus thing going on there. Oh man.
That's
There you go.
Little Chi Chong vibes.
Yeah, something like that.
No,
Somewhere,
I was gonna say,
some in that arena. Somewhere in that arena.
I was gonna say you can kind of go as Captain Jack as for one game, and then kind of go as like Raiders buddy Jesus for
There you go.
for the
There
next.
you go. Now we're talking.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
Buddy
great.
Jesus, baby, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
That's
So we've got a pretty interesting show. I love the topic. We were talking in the green room there.
Why would you screw with it? Look, dude, tease that. I said it correctly.
I need rollers in a perm. I need rollers and curls. That's what I need.
No. This is first off, I am pushing 58. I will be 58 in about a month, right? If you have hair like I do at 58 years of age, and this is not colored. This is my natural color. This is my natural color, my beard. People think that I color my hair. I don't. I got some gray in here. But when you have hair like this at 58 years of age, yeah, I have a little bit of a bald spot here. Why the hell would you screw it up with a perm? Okay? The only way that I would ever do a perm, and this is what I'm considering. The only way that I would ever do a perm or get a beard shave is if we collected a bunch of money and it went to a charity.
Okay.
Now, I would consider that.
Fair. That's fair.
I would consider that. And I more than likely probably would do the beard shave because the hair, I'm very attached, pun intended, to my hair. I'm attached to my hair. But I do a beard shave for a bunch of money for a charity. And if it was on this channel, and let's say maybe, I don't know, maybe $5,000, right? Because I figure $5,000 would be $1,250 a piece for all charities, all four of us having charities, and I would let my co-host get 50 to the charity of their choice. $5,000. If we were to raise $5,000, I would shave my beard. Until that happens, not doing it. Now I would say maybe to make more, right? I would say that the other gentleman, because we all have beards, that Alex would have to go to maybe a goat. Richie would have to do like a foo, and Coach, you just have to shave all yours off because you already got the goat, so that you'd have to do something that's really, really beyond.
Go straight high school with no facial hair.
No facial hair.
When I was in high school, I had a full beard.
Well, like I said, if we did full Sherman, I like Sherman Hemsley with the walk and the walk model.
That's right. That's right. Yep. That's my Halloween. That's my Halloween costume for at 58. Here's Sherman Hemsley because I'm already had a hairdo.
So to get right into it, guys, we should probably get into it before we get too late into the show. But I'm not opposed to a charity thing for the show. I would certainly be down for that. I work in a very professional environment, so I'd have to be mindful of the direction that I would take it in. but I am certainly willing to kind of do something for a charity perspective, and I know the partners at my work and stuff would be okay with it as well. They do know that I do the show. But anyways, guys, wanted to throw over to Coach to start discussing his LA Chargers and your offseason keeps kicked to the curb, and who you think you're going to re-sign, and perhaps who you think you might target maybe would be another one there as well, right? So what are your thoughts?
Well, I like to debunk the narrative and from Chargers Twitter for starters. Alex and I have been talking about this for about 2 weeks. Now, the whole idea about what people want and what's good for the team is far apart. Like, when you're in negotiations and you're far apart, we're not even close to coming to a reasonable deal. That's where we're at the moment. Because people that they want to draft, we already have in house and under contract, and they're productive. I can understand that if you wanted to upgrade a position because the guy wasn't productive, I get that. But I've seen narratives where people want to go after Bijan Robinson, for instance. When you have Austin Eckler, Josh Kelly, and Isaiah Spiller, who you just drafted last year, already as a stable of running backs you have in house already, that's problem one I have. So that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Then it's the whole idea of drafting a tight end in the first round when there's a plethora of tight ends in the draft that are all serviceable, and it's not one above the other when it comes down to the idea of who's more talented and who's not, who can be productive in the league. I mean, it's 6'5", 250 pounds, and 6'5", 250 pounds, and you can catch the ball and they can jump. I mean, you're golden there. So that whole narrative is ridiculous as well. I mean, the odds on play right now for drafting is definitely a wide receiver. So let's start there. So if you're not talking about drafting wide receiver nonsense, Justin Herbert needs weapons, and weapons of the wide receiver variety. Then there's the whole idea we talk about losing people. People want to trade Joey Bosa. They didn't want to trade Khalil Mack. They didn't want to trade Keenan Allen. The only person they don't want to trade is Justin Herbert, thankfully. So we hadn't completely, utterly lost our minds. But yet again, I'm waiting for that narrative now that I hadn't said it, right? Trade Justin Herbert for a bunch of first-round picks and reset the market. Come on now. So yet again, that's the craziness that's been going on in Chargers Twitter since the season ended for us, right? But in regards to who should go, at least for starters, I would say that the guys that on 1-year deals most likely will be the ones that go. I mean, we first of all we have to address the idea of us being on $20 million over the cap. Because that's what the whole trade narrative came about. Who we should trade, who we should let go, and things of that nature to get under the cap. That was the first and foremost. So we had that. But I have an easy fix for it. The people aren't paying attention, and you also can get potential value back in making these moves. So what I would do instead of going big splash and saying to trade Keenan Allen or trade Joey Bosa or trade somebody that's an impact player, you have role players that are making solid money in the back ends of their deals. So you have Michael Davis, right? Michael Davis is making, I think he has $6.9 million in cap savings if you trade him today, right? So that's $6.9 million. Matt Fowler has $8.6 million in cap space that you can free up with minimal, I think $2 to $3 million between the two of them in dead money. So you're saving $6 to $8 million in cap, and you're only hitting dead money for about $2 million per player. So that's an easy win right there. Because if you look at it, you have depth at corner. There is some uncertainty with J.C. Jackson, I get it. But you have depth at corner because you drafted two last year that the coaching staff is high on. So you trade Michael Davis because he had a decent season last year. You trade him at probably the apex of his value at this point. You probably not gonna get any more value than you would get from him right now. Trade him, free up that money. Trade or release Matt Fowler because you have Jamari Saleh, who you drafted in the late 6th round, that's gonna replace him at left guard anyway. So you do that. So automatically we're right at about $16 million that we freed up in actual money before we even talk about cutting anybody else. And on top of the guys that are making those 1-year deals, you shave off the 1-year deal monies, your Bryce Callahans, your Kyle Van Noy's, and a few other guys that are on 1-year deals. You shave off that money, then you're already under the cap. Then you just got to figure out what you're going to do as far as getting money to be available for your, maybe a 1 or 2, notable free agent signings. But yet again, I wouldn't go big in free agency. You did it already last year. I would focus on drafting quality players and getting younger. That would be my philosophy for the team. So that's what I would do in regards to what I'm going to do in the draft. I would say wide receiver.
Let Bryce Callahan go though?
Huh?
Like from a defensive perspective, can you afford to allow his production to walk out the door?
Well, it's all dependent upon what J.C. Jackson's status is. If J.C. Jackson comes back healthy at any point earlier in the season, then you can probably afford it because you still have Asante Samuel Jr. If J.C. Jackson comes back and play, you're going to move up Jasir Taylor to the slot, who played some slot last year, who you drafted in the later rounds last year, who's a very speedy corner. And then you have Dean Leonard. So you have 4 solid corners that are making rookie money outside of JC. So, and then you can still pick up a corner or 2 later in the draft in the 5th or 6th round like you did last year. You can kind of rewind that cycle. So that would round out your secondary room from your corner perspective. So it's a necessary evil. I would like to keep Bryce, yes. But again, he's probably high commodity. He played all year unhurt. Like, he didn't get hurt at all last year. He played the whole season. I know that was the issue we discussed before, Richie, is that we were concerned about whether or not he could play a full season, and he did. So his market value is high. Now we could kind of sneak a trade in before his contract actually expires, and that would be great. But again, if you lose that opportunity he has to walk out the door, then it's a necessary evil as far as the loss is concerned. But I think they're confident in the young guys that they're developing, and you should be, because you drafted them. You should develop them and put them out on the field when they're ready. So I would say that's an option. But I think the free agency moves won't be much. I think that it'll be very little roar when it comes down to the idea of us being active in free agency. I think we're going to be solid in the draft. And if we did trade any players away, I say we have to get a lot of draft capital to get younger, because Justin Herbert's deal is coming. Whether it be this offseason or next offseason, I think that $48 to $50 million annual deal is going to come, and he's going to be expensive after next year.
Especially if what Danny Dimes is asking for is true.
Right. I'm going to talk about that. Tomorrow on my 30-minute lockdown. So check that out, because I got some things to say about who you should pay and who you shouldn't.
Toss one up for you there.
You're right. There you go. Appreciate that.
That's selfish plug.
A little bit. I got to follow him behind Cap's leadership. You know what I'm saying? But overall, I think that we should probably pick up 1 or 2 guys for depth. I would think that might be an option if we have any money freed up. But draft well. I think our biggest philosophy at this moment is to draft well and run it back and bring some young guys that's going to help the team right away. Draft a wide receiver in the 1st round, draft a tight end in the 2nd round, plug and play, and be solid with your and get good value in the later rounds. And we'll see what we got come August.
Fair enough.
Do you see anyone in as a big, this is pure speculation at this point, but like a big actual restructure person, like with Bosa or Mac, or any rumblings of them trying to restructure with something?
I'm glad you said that, because I think that the other caveat to get us under the cap fully and get us some money freed up this year, it will be to restructure Keenan Allen's deal. Is because he has a high cap number, but he has low guaranteed money. So I think you flip it. You give him the guaranteed money with his contract. So say hypothetically he's making $20 million, right? But it's $16 million in salary, but only $4 million in bonus. You just flip it, make it 16 guaranteed, 4 in salary, and automatically we freed up what's that $12 million in free money. So if I had the numbers right, $16 million in free money. So yeah, you would have that. So that would be $16 million. That'll be money we could use it for agency. So that would solve your problem right there. You trade 2 guys and you restructure 1 guy, and we're under the cap and we're good. We have about $16 million to play with, depending on who you want to pick up. So you can make 1 big splash with that, or save your money, because again, you got to sign Justin in the next coming year or 2 and get that done. So yeah, I think Keenan Allen's restructuring was probably something to watch out for, because again, the way his numbers work, it makes sense to restructure and just give him a guaranteed salary and lower his cap number. Because that's how you manipulate the cap all day. When they have a high cap number and they have low guaranteed money, you just flip it and the cap number goes down, and you still have the ability to pay them what they want, and they will ultimately help you out in the salary cap.
Sure. Now, same vein, Alex, I'm going to steal your question, but flip it a little bit. Who do you see as the top 2 or 3 guys in your team that you are most likely going to try to trade in the offseason?
Honestly, I mean, if it all depends on, because there's a lot of mystery about what Kellen Moore's identity is going to be with offense. So let's say hypothetically he wants to be a run-oriented offense. They might trade away a running back or 2, to get another offensive lineman and draft a running back that he really wants to he figures he'll fit better in the system, like a Bijan Robinson, for instance, somebody like that. But if he's a pass-heavy guy, he wants to throw the ball because he wants to maximize Justin Herbert's talent, then he might load up on receivers. So yet again, you still might not need all those running backs or secondary tight end and things of that nature because you're not going to be running the ball. You're going to run a lot of spread. So I would say from offense perspective, there's not much to trade, to be honest, because, the people that you have that's in-house, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, they're making, a lot of money. Mike's more so in the guarantee money than Keenan. But yeah, I would say that's, maybe Gerald Everett, if they do draft a tight end in the first round. I think Gerald Everett may be a trade target. Somebody, he played pretty well in the season, so you might be able to get some value for him, or maybe a mid-round pick. So if you plan on drafting a tight end in the first and second round, I would say maybe trade him and get some capital back for him. Defensively, I don't see much, honestly. Like I said, unless they can sneak off a trade for Bryce or somebody like that. But yeah, I think that for the needs we have, I think that we're more likely just to stay pat and run it back with the roster we have. For the most part, I don't see a lot of people moving on the defensive side of the ball.
Interesting. So it sounds like you're going to be somewhat or more stable than you have been, say, in years past, is what your prediction is. Less moves, but more minor restructures and that sort of thing. Is that kind of a fair general assessment?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I mean, I think that makes the most sense when you think of Herbert's out with his contract and what you can put on them. You see all these other teams do that in that small low before they have to invest more. Obviously, teams can work around. It's just a different approach.
Yeah, my thought was that you may try to do a heavy restructure of a Mac or a Bosa or something, and try to get extra draft capital by trading a player away that you have depth, and try to make that churn that trying to figure out how you guys are going to retool when you end up with a quarterback that you're paying all that money for, to try to get like another guy to come in behind as a rusher, for example, because you got two higher price guys that are kind of on either edge. Mm-hmm. And at some point you won't be able to pay the piper and pay both as well as have Herbert. So you're going to want to probably try to backfill that. So wouldn't that be I think that would be an interesting kind of approach for you guys, is to trade for picks, backfill the edge spot, and then try to move forward with a young guy as you let both Bosa and Mac basically either age out of the league or just get traded or walk.
Yeah, I think they're not sold on the idea of what the experiment could have been with Bosa and Mac, because Bosa was hurt most of last year. So I like to believe they're going to run that back. So I think that that's going to be something that they're going to look to try to keep for the next couple of years. Now, if you count the years, the time that Herbert's new deal would start, Bosa and Mac's contracts both will have expired. So I think they did well in counting those numbers and counting those dollars at the time. So when Herbert's $48-50 million, whatever it's going to be, kicks in, it's going to ultimately be when their contracts are up, because Bosa has 3 years left and I think Mac has 2. So if Herbert's on his 4th year and he got a 5th-year option, then the next year will be the year that the Justin Herbert money kicks in. So you'll be free and clear of Mac altogether, and you have 1 year left of Bosa, and Bosa he has the Keenan Allen deal where his last year there's no money guaranteed on it. So you literally could trade it for nothing and have no dead money and get whatever you're going to get from him, or you can restructure it and let him play out his last year of his deal and give him guaranteed money and free up that cap space. So they did pretty well as far as how they did it. And Mike Williams' deal is the same. His expires when Herbert kicks in. So they did pretty well as far as how they're going to manage the money. So that's why I say spend the time getting young now. Do as best you can to get young now and get quality draft picks and guys are going to contribute for the next 4 to 5 years, because you're going to need that cheap labor, on the field when it comes down to rookies and young players are concerned, because Herbert's going to get expensive.
Right, but that's exactly why I was kind of framing what I said and how I said it too, right? Which is you have this minor window right now where you want to try to capitalize, as you said, get younger, get cheaper in certain positions to allow yourself that runway as Herbert's kind of front-loaded portion probably of his deal is going to kick in maybe next year or the year after, kind of thing. And so getting an additional stable of rookies for both this year and next year, and typically the way GMs would go about doing that is they would intentionally try to target more draft picks or try to acquire more draft picks, and they would normally do so by trading away certain players. So that's why Bosa kind of came to mind. But I did have one question on Bosa because, a question and a comment rolled into one. Did his contract signing as a bonus include extended and bonus health insurance for all the times he's hurt?
No, it's standard.
Oh,
It's
okay.
standard.
I had to ask, right?
Right. No, it's standard league protocol.
Yeah.
Standard league protocol. No, he doesn't have any gap insurance. He doesn't have any gap insurance. No gap
Okay.
insurance in the contract.
Black.
Same as everybody else.
Affleck.
I had to ask because it seems to be a thing with him, right?
It is. But I'm hoping, based upon the fact that he corrected what the problem was he's been dealing with for the last 3 years, that it will be better for him in the long run. He was still trying to work his way back at the end of last season. So I think with a full off season of rest and recuperation, I think he'll be much better off in the long run. So he can get back to that normal, what we are accustomed to him being. But if he doesn't, again, I wouldn't be as a Chargers, I wouldn't bat an eye and try to move on from him if he doesn't come back to form. Because we'll give him an excuse for the injury, but at this point,
upgrades from that strawberry seltzer crap.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that it is. I can't.
I think that's
I
part
can't
of
even-
Bud Light seltzer, but yeah.
He needs to eat more when Nick's eating, because whatever Nick's eating, he's doing something different. Now he's a different person from what he looked like when he came into the league. So whatever Nick's eating, you eat what Nick's eating. Yeah.
Nick drinks Guinness, and Joey drinks like the fruity seltzer. So
and argues with
which one
fans.
works.
Yeah, and argue with fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to try my Grand Marnier, but I forgot it was there. So.
Yeah,
okay.
fair enough. So this is, I think it's been, I think the Chargers are really in for an interesting offseason. And of course, like every year, there's a surprise that happens at some point with every team, right?
Something we can't predict, but
it's
by normal analytics and normal status quo of what how the Chargers operate, I would say that's what I feel like they're going to do. But again, there's always that splash. And you never know. If you're a GM, you get on the phone to call me, and I'm not expecting you to call, and you offer me something sweet, and I can't pass it up, then hey, I got to make a deal, right?
But who would be the most enticing person on the Chargers, you think, to get that type of deal like that?
Who would be the most enticing?
I mean, outside of the obvious, like Herbert or
Austin Eckler.
It would have to be Eckler. Yeah,
it has to be Eckler. Eckler, yeah, he probably has the highest trade value of the whole entire team outside of Herbert. Yeah, I think he has the highest trade value. So him and Derwin James, Eckler, and Herbert probably the highest. That you could probably, if somebody called you and offered you the world for, you have to at least listen, kind of thing. Maybe not Herbert and Durham, but definitely Austin. Again, because I love him, but he's a
and look at what like the Panthers for McCaffrey,
right? Exactly. That kind of haul. It's hard to say no, especially when you get
got 4 picks,
and
to pay him. So
right. You line up Josh Kelly for a year and you get all that draft capital. It's hard to say no to that.
Interesting. So I'm gonna jump into the Broncos side of things, which I think is I think we're in a super interesting offseason with the change of coach, and I think that in and of itself is going to be really just, I think half of our roster is going to be churned, or at least a reasonable portion of it. So I wrote down a few names that are free agents that I think most will at least recognize the names of. Some of them you may not. So Corliss Waitman's our punter on the team. He's a free agent. And so he's basically the only punter that was on our team last year once we let Sam Martin go. And so that's going to be an interesting position because we would then not have a punter at all if we let him walk.
You really
forward.
just lead with a punter?
I didn't want to say
I did.
I didn't want to say it, but I was like, wow.
Hey, it's a tough time in Broncos country right now.
I'll take
It's their best player.
Of all the interviews we got with the Broncos, we're going to leave. Well, our punter's a free agent.
Yes. Because that leaves a complete position that's completely vacant and void on the roster. So that's kind of a big deal.
Like we don't have a position that's vacant on our roster, but we're going to lead with the punter.
You don't have a position that's vacant on your roster.
Technically, no, but in reality, yes.
Hey, look, you can talk in technicalities. I'm talking about actual facts. And
don't look, Mom. Don't look. Don't look, Mom.
So there's that, and then a few others that you likely are familiar with. Kareem Jackson, free agent this offseason. Latavius Murray, again, free agent this offseason. He's certainly one that I think that the Broncos would do well to re-sign, but we'll wait and see. PJ Locke, who really kind of came on pretty strong in the back end of the season for the Broncos and made some really great plays. He's a free agent this year. He plays the safety position. And Jonas Griffith, who was on track to being the starting inside backer but got hurt. I truly think that he could be an under-the-radar kind of free agent signing that we might be able to get at a decent price that could fill kind of that, Swiss Army knife role in the inside backer role for us and kind of fill a void and gap there if we need it. And of course, my favorite tight end on the roster, Eric Saubert, is also the
man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, the man, the myth, the legend. And so those are the kind of more.
He's out because they got Taysom Hill and Denver. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah. So I actually think that Saubert will likely be picked up by another team pretty quickly when he gets let go, because he fills a great role for many teams because he can both catch and block really well. So I could totally see him going to actually a team that I think would do really well with him would be a team like Tennessee, who is a run team. So they use their tight ends in line, but then also like to kind of throw a couple of passes here and there to the tight ends. Any team that kind of plays a run heavy style that then likes to kind of just chuck a ball every once in a while to a tight end as part of their offensive scheme. Saubert would be a great fit for a team like that. Actually, another one would be really dangerous with him on would be going to like the 49ers, for example, as a complement to kind of go alongside Kittle. That would be another team where I could see him doing really well on. But going back to our starting lineup, we do have a few guys in the starting spots. Kareem Jackson was starting, but I think that we're going to let him go and allow our backup safety there to step in and kind of take over that role. I do think that what we are going to see is an interesting thing on the Broncos, and that is our left guard spot with Dalton Reisner. I think that will be a really, really interesting piece of our offseason. I took a look at some rough math in terms of what the projections would be for someone with his stats and things like that. And the general predictions had him at a 4-year deal, $40 million or about $10 million a year. I'm just not sure our GM is willing or would want to spend that much for the starting left guard spot, given some of his production issues and some of the challenges he had last season. I think that he would lean heavily on our new coach Peyton for that in terms of what happens. I do think he'd get picked up pretty quickly by another team because I think he's shown previous years that he's capable, but I have a sneaky suspicion that they may let him walk. And the bigger name that I think, just due to some flashes that he showed, particularly this year, that is also a free agent, is Draymond Jones. He's a defensive end. He's shown consistent improvement from rushing and getting pressure on the quarterback. This year specifically, he really turned it up a notch, which should not be a surprise because it's his contract year. So that's a par for the course for most people. And I looked up what his projection was going to be, and it basically puts him 4 years, $70 million a year or so, based on his position and value for being an edge rusher. And again, I have a funny feeling that he could well be a tag and trade for the Broncos to try and get more picks. But that's kind of where I have the Broncos sitting at with the free agents, the guys that are kind of out there in free agents and whatnot. I could also see us re-signing potentially Eric Saubert because we're going to be in need of tight ends because we have a couple of our tight ends that are free agents. But of course, that would just make me then just buy a jersey to make sure I get one.
You would be insufferable if they gave Sauber a long-term deal. Insufferable.
It'd be perfect. Perfect. But
what's the Broncos projected like? Are they like projected to be over cap, or where are they with their cap situation?
Hold on, I'll tell you.
I have to double check, but I think we're under by enough.
They are $9 million in positive, $9 million in cap. They got $9 million free.
Okay. I mean, I figured they would be, but I just didn't know if they'd be in any sort of situation. Because I felt like I've seen some stuff saying they've been shooting Garrett Bowles around.
Well, I was going to get to the other guys that are not free agents next, simply because there's been other rumors.
Segue into it.
Yeah. So thank you for the softball. We'll just take that on from there. Yeah, exactly. So we've also had some trade rumors, and this coach really fits into kind of what I was talking to you about, because I kind of see the Broncos probably going in that direction, which is a bit of a Miami Dolphins approach, I think might start occurring with the Broncos this offseason, which would be selling off key players via trades for whether it be first round picks or first and seconds or some kind of variation of that. Cortland Sutton has been the big name that seems to be brought up on a regular basis.
Really? Over Judy? That's interesting.
Jerry Jeudy has also been someone that's been brought up more recently as well. Jeudy really had a spectacular end to his season for the last maybe half of the year.
He turned it on after he got pissed and see like in half.
Yeah.
And then he started balling. He had like 3 touchdowns.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jeudy really kind of almost flipped a switch, which, as much as you want to, slam the guy for not being like that earlier, you do need to give credit where credit's due, in the fact that, he did well, right? And then the other guy that's been talked about as a potential trade is Garrett Bowles, and you kind of mentioned him earlier there, Alex. Again, those are all kind of 3 bigger name players that most people are familiar with, that I see the Broncos potentially yielding some good draft capital for, which we need for both this year and next.
What do you think? What do you think? Kind of, I was maybe incorrectly putting 2 and 2 together when you talked about the Miami Dolphins approach, coach, and they got rid of Tunsil, right, for a plethora of picks, such that they talked putting a statue up in the stadium for how many people they've got. What do you something like moving Bulls? What do you think that would return? I mean, I don't think it would be a Tunsil level goal, but I mean, maybe you find a team who thinks they're a left tackle away from, being successful. It might give up at least one, but I was just curious, what your thoughts are on kind of his value.
I think that Peyton is going to be trying to get a first and maybe like a 7th or something, like a first and maybe a 7th for next year or something like that from a Bulls type trade. I think probably more realistic at this stage in his contract and stuff like that, and the fact that he's coming back from injury might be a kind of a 2nd and a 3rd kind of deal. So perhaps something like a 2nd this year and maybe a 3rd next year, which would be pretty good return, or even 2-2. So like maybe this year's 2nd and next year's 2nd on the end, just because he is a starting caliber left tackle. He has had
signed an extension, right?
Pardon me?
Did he sign an extension last year?
2 years ago. I think 2 years. 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
He's like, isn't he kind of like he was like non-traditional rookie too, right? He's a little older, wasn't he? Like so he's like almost 30.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He did. As I understood it, I think if I remember correctly, I think he was kind of one of those guys that went through high school in like 6 years or 7 years, kind of thing. Like just because he had he had a troubled past kind of thing.
Man, I get it.
Yeah. So no, but he has a pretty severe learning disability, so he really struggled through school, and then he started lashing out and had some like real anger problems and stuff through school. Which a dude that big who has anger problems is going to kind of stick out in most hallways.
And we'll find your way to the field, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're already there.
Yeah. So, and he was also, I think he wrestled a little bit in high school too. So, anyways, he took a little bit of a longer road to get there, but he really started to do much better with Munchak when he was here. And no, I think they would much rather let Judy's contract ride unless they get given at least a first for him.
At least the first?
Yeah.
I don't think that's happening, man.
Yeah, well, that's low.
I mean,
lofty.
unless it's Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, someone in the top 5. I mean, they're first round. I mean, wide receiver class is too deep every year.
Yeah, you get too many receivers every year in the draft. The command of
Middle
first
of the
round
year,
pick
there's
for.
at least to maybe 8.
At
They're
least.
like, oh, these guys could all go in the first round, and that's
Sure.
every year.
But that's my point though. Why would you ditch a guy that had the level of production that he did at the back end of the season? You would hope that he continues that trend. So if he continues that trend, then you're getting that first round production out of him, having been a former first round pick. So the question was, would they likely take that for him? I'm saying no, because his trajectory was up at that first round pick level. So would they maybe consider like a second and something else? That's a maybe.
Actually, a late second maybe, but not a first.
But I think the target would be to try to get a first
Well,
for him. Otherwise,
does he have one more year with the better option, or is he? He's got like a year and an option left, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I think this is his option year.
Okay. Exercise this is his 5th one?
I think this is his option year.
This is his 4th year. His option year will be next year.
Because he was the draft prior to
2020. He was 2020 draft pick. So 4 years will be 2024. Would be his last year.
Yeah. Sorry,
so
next year's his option year.
potentially what 2 years of control. So
Yeah. So you got 2023 and then his off 2024.
Andrew, you're hilarious.
Yeah. So this is his 4th year. So you have him. Yeah. So you have 4th year. Yeah.
That's Doc. That's Doc, Coach. Just so you know, that's Doc.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Maybe
I'm not quite sure when. I'm really not sure when the Broncos will have another first round pick, because it seems that our GM has, no longer sees the value in first round draft picks for the Denver Broncos. We'll just put it that way.
I will say to Sean Payton's credit, he's a really good drafter. I think his personnel decisions from a draft perspective have been really good in his past. New Orleans, he hit in the draft on quite a few separate occasions, and guys you really didn't target really weren't big names, and they were good players in the league. You know,
but was he really the GM that was drafting, Coach, or who was his GM in knowledge? Because again, you can say that maybe he gave input, but did they have a real GM?
They did have a good GM in New Orleans. They did have a good GM in New Orleans.
When?
What you mean when? When what?
Well, no, it's so Captain, you're the answer to your
when
question.
you do good.
On the timeline. At the early stage when he was there at New Orleans, it was the GM who was making the decisions. And the back portion of his career, he kind of did, or was more of a Gruden style.
That was going to be my point. Is and I think Ghostman actually said it earlier in the chat, but the Saints are not in a healthy spot right now, and some of that has to go to Peyton and the moves made, his ways out the door.
Yeah, I think that more has so more to do with the money they paid in extensions, like the Mike Thomas deal and a few other extensions that they gave, not the guys they drafted. I'm just
Kamara.
Kamara.
The couple first round picks though have not really panned out. Like they took.
Well, yeah, Penning last year, but he wasn't there for the Penning. Penning last year was wild. I don't know why they thought that was going to work.
He was the edge rusher they took the year before that from TSA or something.
Let's see.
I feel like their last few, but to his credit, he has always found highly productive offensive players that are late round, undrafted free agent types. So I mean, he certainly has a knack for offensive talent.
What was Peyton last year there? 2020?
This was Dennis Allen's first year, wasn't it?
No, I think this is second year, right? This will be a second year. Okay.
Yeah, this last season.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been one full year out of the league.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One season said, I'm good.
Yeah. So thank you, Anthony, for the question. KJ Hamler is a very good wide receiver with an asterisk beside that comment when he's healthy and on the field. And the challenge with Hamler. Yeah, and the problem is that there's an ongoing joke on MHRT Network with regards to the Hamler string.
Hamler string, that's one.
And he has had hamstring issues dating all the way back to college, where he had injury challenges as well. But when he is healthy, he is very good. He can get open and he will beat guys over the top and make them look silly because he's got the talent to do it.
He's too explosive for his own good, man. Pops his own hammies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's Keenan Allen or Kadarius Toney. Either.
Well, I mean, Keenan Allen is kind of a more of a bigger body guy that kind of runs routes fairly well. KJ Hamler is a speed guy that has a pretty well-developed route tree for a guy with speed, which is kind of a rare combination because most of the speed guys have to really develop aggressively into that. Whereas, like, for example, Alex, we look at a guy like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill came into the league and was really bad at route running. He ran like 2 routes on the route tree, and that was about it. He just ran really fast. And then as he kind of progressed on the Chiefs, he really became a very, very polished route runner, to his credit for the work that he put in. And whereas Hamler is fast, not quite as fast as Hill, but came into the league with a much deeper and more polished route tree as part of his repertoire. But the problem is that unlike Hill, Hamler has been hurt a bunch.
Those are big words now. Repertoire.
Oh, I know. Very posh language on the Wild Wild West.
Showing that English, French,
vernacular,
immersion, the repertoire of KJ Hamler is.
Oh, I actually pronounced it properly too. Yes. And for the record, since we're going to get into the French pronunciations, it's called foyer, not foyer.
Yeah,
I got one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, Alex, the answer to your question, Peyton Turner was that D lineman that they drafted.
Yeah, there we go. You knew it was someone.
Yeah.
You're probably who the hell's Peyton Turner? Exactly.
I really like KJ too. I've seen him in a bunch of interviews. I've seen other kind of off-camera style interviews with other people as well.
He's a hell of a Madden player too.
I didn't know that.
To have on Madden, I mean.
Oh, okay. No, he by all accounts, he's a guy you want to root for. It's just, his body seems to be betraying him at the next level, just like it did in college. All the talent of the world, but it's just, for whatever reason, his body just can't take the abuse. And it's really sad to see guys that have the talent to do it, but then their bodies just can't take the abuse of professional football.
That's why I'm always skittish about smaller players. I'm always skittish about smaller players because I just don't feel like smaller players.
That's why I don't
hold
get
up.
all this hype around Bryce Young and like one of them the next
Right,
like
5'10",
you know,
150 pounds soaking wet. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
like,
come on.
I don't know.
CJ Stroud is clearly a better investment than Bryce Young is. Let's just be honest about it.
I mean, just like even like Richie said, it just some people just can't translate both their game, their health, are you know a mix of the two go to the NFL level
That's
at
true.
a fast game, and you know you could be God's gift at football in college and get to the league and just never be healthy enough to make it or be
Story of my life.
Next, that's what happened to Capt in 42. So I mean,
Yeah.
Story of my life, man. When I walked on at the University of Florida many years ago.
Many moons
Yeah,
ago.
I walked on the University of Florida, all right. I walked right the F off, too.
Well, I was going to say, based on your comment there, you didn't walk off.
Yeah, I did a walk off.
No, you didn't walk off. You were carted off by the sounds of it.
No. I walked off because, as people were saying, I had an ROTC scholarship, and I was going to walk on. And then I saw Wilbur Marshall, and I'm like, you know, that ROTC scholarship is pretty nice. I think I'm going to keep that and not get broken in half. So
Well,
I walked off.
Awesome. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up, because there has been some rumors about this in Broncos country, and I did want to at least address it on the show. There's been off and on rumors that Justin Simmons may also be on the trading block as well.
Oh yeah.
Figured are they reached him or something?
Yeah, something along those. So I think
I thought you were going to talk about Ryan. So, you know.
Yeah, that was my question about a DC position, but I'll wait.
We'll see. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you also have to wait and see kind of who the DC is, because they might start saying no. I want to keep him. But again, if you're looking at the players on the roster, the guys that can yield those first and second round draft picks, he certainly has the name and the reputation, and he's also basically, you know, a completely squeaky clean player when it comes to off the field and reputation and demeanor and everything else. So, you know, he ticks all the right boxes for another team to potentially say, you know, yes to the draft capital, yes to all that kind of stuff, because he represents the team so well. So I'm not sure the Broncos will actually do it, but that is certainly some of the rumors that have been presented, just because it is clear that Peyton, our GM, is trying to get as many high picks, because we traded away some of those high picks to get both Russell Wilson and Peyton. Well, and the fact that our record, again, wasn't particularly good. So if we have certain players on the team that haven't contributed to a better record, then it's possible that they'll look to try to get rid of some of those players, free up, again, more cap space, and then perhaps target free agents and get draft capital to kind of get cheap talent across the board.
Wait, did DZ actually play Notre Dame? I thought he was just referencing Rudy.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, this Cap's comment just threw me off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I see the Broncos going, and some of the names that are coming up in free agency. I also kind of wanted to throw in some contract numbers for kind of the starters that are kind of coming up in free agency, and the fact that I'm thinking at least one or both of those guys that are likely going to command in the $10 to $10+ million a year mark. I'm not sure our GM is going to pull that trigger this offseason. And I do think that the Broncos will further save additional cap dollars to try to bring in key free agencies to kind of bolster our offensive line.
Specific at center, right?
Oh, geez, I hope so. I hope so. I really, really hope so. Although, I mean, I will say when Glasgow was healthy, he was certainly miles better than Cushenberry was for us. But, again, even he couldn't stay healthy enough to kind of play out the entirety of the season. So that really kind of shot us in the foot there as well. But I agree. So I'm gonna let's throw over to Captain, and we'll end with the Super Bowl champs. Captain, with regards to the Raiders, what do you see the Raiders doing from a free agency perspective, especially given some recent news that you alluded to by saying that you had a completely vacant position group? And yes, that was the softball segue.
I mean, first off, Mark and Ziggs called me earlier today, right before I was getting my hair done, and we said, Cap, we want you on the team. You can be multiple. You'll be a Iron Man. You're going to play offense, defense, and special teams. We're going to get the walker out there for you. They're going to get a new rule where I can bring my cane on the field at the same time, so I can go on the field and trip people with the cane. And it won't have like a real gun like the guy did in Last Boy Scout, but it will have a stun gun attachment, so I can use the stun gun to tackle people as well. It's going to be called the Captain Rule because there's so many rules made for Raider players anyway. They figured that they would let me go with it. And then, but the other thing is that I will have eclipsed George Blanda's record for being the oldest person ever playing the NFL, since I'll be 58 in a little bit. So I will have gotten him by about 10 years. So I'm very happy to announce on the program, look for the captain out in scrimmages real soon. Again, Ironman football, offense and defense and special teams. I'm going to be the designated onside kick guy, because Carlson just has too much of a leg, and I'm working on that. That's probably the area that I'm not very good at. So I'm needing to try to get it over 10 yards, but I'm going to be doing that as well. So I appreciate that. But as far as I said, we don't really need anybody else other than me. I mean, because again, I might be called to play quarterback, and I think I might be able to throw it farther than Jalen Hurts did on the very last pass in the Super Bowl. It's questionable. I don't know. I'm going to try. Okay. I don't have as much zip on it. I will admit that, but I might be able to get it 20 yards down the field. But we're going to be doing a lot of quick hits, And I'm going to be doing a lot of Tim Tebow jump passes and homage to the donkeys, because I'm going to have to jump up to get over the offensive lineman that will be in front of me. So it's going to be a lot of quick start jump passes.
How to effectively run that Amelia Earhart offense, right?
Yeah, the Amelia Earhart offense. Amelia Earhart captain offense, because we're going to have to do the substitutions for me. But I don't think the Raiders need anybody else. I mean, it's not like, because I can play quarterback, I can play cornerback, the quarters and corners. I can sub at safety. I might play tight end if we have Garbers at quarterback, who is the only quarterback that is on our roster as of this time. So we might sign one. We might draft one. But, I mean, other than me, I think we're set. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to start at right tackle, and then I'm going to go from right tackle, and then I'm going to go in motion and go to the quarterback. So it's going to be a right tackle eligible quarterback motion. It's going to be a new rule as well. So we still need a right tackle, although they were trying to find.
This is a lot of workplace accommodations they're giving you. Yeah, you must have that lost.
I'm worth it. I'm worth it. I mean, I'm sorry I'm so damn smug, as Hefty was saying. I'm so smug here, but statistical and smug. But the right tackle quarterback position is kind of like in MASH, where you have the corporal captain position. I'm going to be the RTQB, so it's a new position in football. But in reality, I tell you, man, I think half our roster is going to be replaced. I did take a look. Cap space. Actually, the Raiders, I think, have the most dead cap money for this next year of any team in the NFL. But we also have the third most cap space. Even carrying dead cap money, we have, and I've seen reports, 48.4 to 50 million in cap space, and that's before we restructure and do other things like that. So we got a lot of cap space.
48 is the number. You're spot on. 48 is the number.
Yeah, we also got about 48 players we need to sign. So if we sign them all to $1 million, we're good, you know? So, yeah.
But first, quarterback.
I'm the quarterback. Like I said, the jump pass captain play.
The annexation of Puerto Rico. Don't forget that one.
Yes, the annexation of Puerto Rico. But yeah, we're hurting. The biggest free agent that we have, aside from number 4, who's gone, and he was a free agent, and he's still a free agent, but he's gone. He's gone over, and I don't want to hear his name anymore. Yeah, he's gone. Anyway, is Jacobs. And Jacobs is, and they're talking about a restricted cap, like a restricted tag, which I like, because with a restricted tag,
they have to send draft picks or something.
That you can shop his wares, figure out what his market value is, and if he gets lost, we get 2 number 1s for him. And I'd like to keep Josh Jacobs, but if you go by what this coaching staff will probably be thinking about doing, thanks there, Coach. What the Ziegler McDaniel lineage being from the Boston area, that you cut guys a year early, you trade back in the draft to acquire more picks. The things that they've been learning over back east, I think there's going to be a lot of that this year. And if, like I said, I'd love to have Josh Jacobs at like 10-5 on a cap hit. And he said that he would like to be playing for the Raiders, but he also, he needs the help. So Alex might be getting him next year, although he's already stated he hates Kansas City. That's going to be really hard.
I doubt that.
Yeah,
I doubt that.
But he did. And I'm not kidding. He did say he hates Kansas.
Yeah, no, at the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, so those
went free, baby.
Really hard to take back. So we'll see.
That's
the thing of sports, though. The minute you put on KC Red, everyone loves you.
Yeah, but I think what the real issue was is you missed the last part of that. I'm pretty sure he said, "I hate KC, especially their barbecue. Texas is better."
I agree.
I mean,
I don't think it's a direct quote, but whatever.
But like I said, as far as who we need, I did take a look of the that we had. I need to see a couple. Is Cleve Farrell was the high that we were saving, which is, I'm going to call it $8 million. Anthony Averett, $4 million. He's gone. Brandon Parker at 3.5, and I hope he's gone because I've been wanting to cut his ass for years. And Perryman at $3 million is the guy that, and I was talking to Gabe about that. He's a good player, but he pretty much misses at least, I want to say 5 or 6 games a year minimum, up to like half of the season. So Perryman is a Pro Bowl guy, but he'd be good. He'd be good to keep. And then the rest of them are just another guy. They're Jags, man. Coach's favorite guy, Jerry Tillery, 2.85. Matt Collins at $2 million. Brock Yassin, call it at 2. Jacob Johnson, the fullback, at 1.5. Keelan by Deron Harmon at safety is he might be cut. He might be brought back. He's players, the defense that might see Deron Harmon back. reaching out to, but it's pretty much Dave Munford as your right tackle. And the rest of the guys on this list, most of them are unrestricted. Horston and Teamer are restricted. Curtis Bolton, the special teams linebacker, is also restricted, but pretty much everybody else is unrestricted. So there's a lot of players to sign at $48 million, and then you can do some structuring. So we'll see what happens there. But the big question, those are the guys that are the free agents, and we'll see what happens there. Other than me playing quarterback, we definitely need to get a quarterback. And I firmly believe that depending upon who you hear, like I said, it's going to be Rodgers. I heard today from Jeff Dallenbach or whatever, he was saying that he's going to go back to the Packers. I hope he does.
I saw CJ Stroud.
Garoppolo. I heard that they were making they're making Garoppolo. Maybe so. Stroud, I was told by a source that they're not going to trade up for him, but that's one person, and that could have been, they could change their mind on him. As long as they don't,
you might fall to him at 7 though. I mean, it's early on, but the way this narrative's going,
I said that. I
see mocks where he falls, but here's the thing: if he falls past 4, whoever's at number 5, and somebody's gonna say, "Hey, I want that pick." They're going to trade up to 5 to get him. And I don't know who's number 5. I'm just saying if he falls past 4, somebody's going to trade up to 5 to get him.
Seattle's 5.
Okay, well, there you go. Somebody will trade up to Seattle for 5. So he's not going to be a Raider in my estimation.
If I'm Seattle, I'm taking CJ at 5, but that's just me.
Well, that's what I'm saying, because Seattle lost their quarterback coach to the Bucs. So don't be surprised if either Geno Smith or Drew Lock is a quarterback for the Bucs next year, because he knows what he has there.
True.
So I mean, when he left Seattle and became the OC in Tampa, if you already know what you already got an inside track on what you can have coming into your system. So I think that Drew Lock or Geno Smith, it's not a lock, pun intended, but for one of those two guys to be the quarterback in the Bucs. So,
but I think it's going to depend too on if Seattle brings Geno back, and I think that they were kind of out of drafting a QB there, and they look at a day 2, 3 option like Hooker or someone a little later, and I said. I think Stroud has a legitimate chance to drop to the Raiders. That's been, especially the Richardson hype that's going on. I think he's going to end up showing up after Pro Day, and I read a big thing on Bleacher Report today about it. It seems like granted, really early in the process, but that it might be a legit possibility, which I think would be the best one outside of Ed's recommendation to tank Caleb Williams, but.
The Richardson and the Levis hype is growing.
Yeah, and you know what? Let it grow.
Young and lesser one too, for sure.
Let it grow, okay? Because again, I am a Florida alum, and I've seen film on Richardson. He's got the physique, he's got a cannon for an arm, but he does not have accuracy. Plus, he makes stupid decisions.
It's like every high they show is like the same play.
That's Josh Allen when he came to the league.
I've seen so many clips from him on Twitter and the same play, and they're like, "Look at this ability." I'm like, "It's the same play over again." He only got one
against the touchdown he had against Tennessee.
Like a scramble on the run touchdown, but it's the same play. It's like, man, tunnel highlight film is 30 seconds long.
Yeah. Like I said, I give it the kind of like the Richardson is like the Philip Buchanan of the pros. And we used to say this about Philip. Philip giveth and Philip taketh away. Okay? He'll do some good things for you, but he'll do 2 bad things to make up for the good things he does for you. And again, I'm not hating on Richardson. Well, I kind of am. But as long as the Raiders don't draft him, I'll be happy. Levis.
Oh yeah, I don't think they will, but I just think that someone's gonna overpay to get Richardson after this process is done.
As long
and
as it's not the Raiders, it's 7. Now, if Stroud drops to us, I wouldn't mind that. Of all of the people, and I'm also kind of hedging my bets on Hooker because I've been a big fan of Hooker. But the one thing that somebody made sense to me is that Hooker played in the Josh Heupel system at Tennessee, which is elementary school offensive football. I don't know if he has the dynamics to be in a very intensive system that McDaniels has. And I said, you know what, that makes sense because I liked Hendon Hooker, all of the plays I've seen of him, but I got to go with the system he was in. If the offense is so easy that even I can do it, then you got an issue. I don't know if he will be able to grasp McDaniels' system. And the Raiders have had an interview with him per reports, so we'll see. But I firmly believe if you're going to draft a quarterback, if Stroud doesn't drop to us, and I wouldn't mind that at 7, although I would probably, if he's there, it depends upon which defensive players are there as well, trade back and get some more picks. I really want a quarterback that's cerebral and that can run plays, McKee, and I'm hearing good things about Haney out of Fresno State in the second. Wouldn't that be great? A Fresno State quarterback in the second round. I've never seen that movie before, but that's what I'm thinking there. But again, if Stroud is the pick, Stroud's the pick. But I wouldn't be hating it as long as it's not Richardson, as long as it's not Levis.
Now the question is, what does McDaniel want? That is the question. Does he want a veteran? Does he want a rookie?
I speak to Josh. Before I go.
I think Daniel wants Garoppolo.
I'm sorry, Alex. What?
I said I think McDaniels wants Garoppolo.
Garoppolo.
I just see it. Or Brissett. Someone he knows. I mean,
you can have both because you can have one of them as a starter, and the other one will be he'll be the bridge to the rookie.
Well, that's year. I know Cap's mentioned that guy from Stanford too, and so maybe that's the approach to take. There's 3 options. Yeah,
I see them drafting McKee. I see them re-signing Stidham, who's the bridge, and I see them signing Brissett at lesser money than Garoppolo, and Brissett is actually more available because he doesn't get injured as often.
well, Stidham is more like a table, not much of a bridge. He's more a table. Yeah, I don't. He's not a full bridge. He's not gonna get you from one side to the other.
Stidham's a rickety ass. He might not make us, but
right,
it's there.
Well, like I said, partner, I take a bridge with Stidham, a bridge with Brissett.
He's like that bridge and road trip.
If you draft Stroud. And then, by the way, because I don't know if you guys got to it, you were talking about people that might be traded. Waller, as well as Renfro, probably have the most trade value of all of the people that we have on the roster, with decent cap savings if we trade them, plus they have availability. It all depends upon who is the quarterback in the system. If it's a high stock quarterback like Jimmy G, and God knows I hope it's not. If it's a high stock pick like Aaron Rodgers, they're going to go to these guys and say, "Hey, Aaron, by the way, don't hit the bong for at least 48 hours. We need to talk to you."
Right.
Okay, without your head being clouded. Which people on this offense do you want in your? Because they're gonna kowtow to Aaron Rodgers if it is Aaron Rodgers, and I'm hoping it's not. Again, I hope he goes back to the Packers. But whoever the quarterback in their mind that's going to be the bridge quarterback, the starter, they'll at least give him the option of, hey, who do you want to keep? If it's Brissett, they might not give him the option, and they'll deal with whoever and say, this is what we're going to get for him. If it's Garoppolo or Rodgers, they might ask. That's all I'm saying. But those guys are the people, and they ain't trading Crosby. He is a.
You trade Chandler Jones before you trade Crosby.
Yeah. Well,
100%.
I'm sure they'd like to trade Chandler Jones, but I don't know if anybody wants to.
Him and his one sack.
Yeah. A ham sandwich and a Coke.
There you go.
And a jersey. Here, kid, catch. There you go. I'll Mean Joe.
A bucket of sunflower seeds and 2 bus passes for Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
A wash machine, right?
Yep.
But that's pretty much it. Like I said, the Raiders need a lot. Like they got $48 million in cap space, but it all comes down to who, other than Captain Jack, is going to be behind center. And that is my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Fantastic.
Slow clap. No, not even a
golf
slow
clap. Little golf clap. There.
Clap.
Golf
I gave you a round of applause.
So, Alex, over to you and the Kansas City Chiefs, former Super Bowl champions.
No, nothing formal about it.
Well,
We're not in a new year yet, so no, sir.
So now that the Mahomes throwing beer bottles over buses is over and all that kind of stuff, and we're now moving on to the off season. Where do you see your team? Who do you see your team keeping? Who do you see your team getting rid of? Do you see any trades? Where do you kind of see things going for you guys?
Run it back. Everybody says run it back.
Run it back.
As the last 2 years have not made the playoffs.
Absolutely.
The Bucks ran it back, and then the Rams ran it back, and they did not.
All right. Just did say run it back and back to the Super Bowl. Just got exposed after. But that's what they were kind of saying at the Super Bowl parade. Run it back, but there's definitely a lot of moves they're going to have to make, especially looking at the cap. I think they're a little shy of $4 million, or project $4 million over. With I think around 23 free agents coming up, so pretty good, significant player that were at least involved in the playoff run. I think the biggest one has been Juju, obviously. What they're doing in the receiver room, because you kind of traded Tony. You got Juju and Hardman as free agents, and I think Juju, especially kind of at least being somewhat productive versus how he was in Pittsburgh last couple of years there. I think will kind of drive a larger market than anticipate, especially with the some teams with large cap space like the Bears who might a little. So I think if the price isn't right, they're not going to be bringing him back, which then kind of opens the door on what else they're going to do. There's definitely going to have to be some extension, reworking of contracts to get that cap number down. This one would be Orlando Brown Jr. They tried to sign him to a pretty fat extension last year, and he wanted to be the highest paid left tackle. They gave him money that was highest paid right tackle. Big ordeal about that, and they tagged him. And I kind of foresee him probably tagging him again. And then definitely going to be renegotiating Frank Clark's contract. I think his cap hit right now is like obnoxiously large. His number right now is $28.6 million. He's not even. He's the playoff shark. So I think he kind of sees the writing wall of where he's getting paid and the player he is now. So I imagine it's the largest hit to get restructured or not be back. And they think that doing that will kind of free up space they need to figure out what they're gonna do in terms of the wide receiver room. Then they just need to, in my opinion, have a plan with it. Said this draft class, and they have 12 picks in it, is insanely deep at wide receiver. I mean, I've seen countless mocks that have had Jordan Addison at the Chiefs in the first round, which I would not be mad about, or Hyatt
That's
from
such a steal, and
Yeah,
to be the
right?
Super Bowl
So-
champions. I mean, come on
So
now.
that's why I'm saying bring Juju back. I think you bring Juju back if the price is right. But if you get a team like the Bears that cut and toss like Kirk money at them, then dude, don't get into that piss match. But then I think that'll be a little indicative of what they'll do. But yeah, I think they need to find out, one, can they get a decent extension with Orlando Brown, and then can they restructure Frank Clark, and then just figuring out of the 23 free agents I'd bring back at the right price. I mean, I think a lot of them are that are restricted free agents, which be able to sit pretty veteran minimum deals. So that's kind of the biggest thing they need to do is just figure out if they can restructure Kirk, and then if they're gonna bring Juju at the right price, and that'll kind of be indicative of the rest of the plan.
Interesting. So, do you really think they're going to try and bring Clark back, though?
I was wondering that because it would having Karlaftis, is something
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah.
Figured that having him would kind of pave the way for them to get rid of Clark, but
Yeah, Frank Clark's. I mean, I think a big part of Karlaftis' success is in part to Frank Clark and his mentorship. I mean, he wasn't your OS type veteran that's like, no, I get money, I'm getting the reps. He kind of took Karlaftis under his wing and showed him some ropes in terms of pass rush, and so he's a pretty valued member in terms of leadership of the defense, and I mean, at least to me, and what I would think is a franchise that would like to have the sustained success. That's kind of an asset you would want, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That's already pretty young and will probably get younger, as this draft goes on. So I think that we'll bring him back. If they can restructure and reach some agreement. If he's not being reasonable at that, then that's your prime cut candidate and cut ties. I think kind of his locker room presence and the fact that he's sort of was the move they made to kind of how they've been this last 5 years. I think they value that, so they want to bring him back. Also coupled with the fact that Carlos Dunlop's a free agent too. He's not as important as Frank Clark was, but I think they do want to have at least some veteran presence into the edge rush. Then also need to bolster the defensive interior line, because outside of Christians, the only other guy is Wharton, who is a D2 guy who's a player, but is coming off of a torn ACL. So a lot of stuff they're going to need to structure Clark to be able to do that. But I think, like I said, if they aren't kind of meet the minds on that, then I think that's your first guy outdoor.
Yeah, this is what makes the offseason so interesting, because there's a series of what ifs that have to play.
Yeah.
So add that the other first guy out the door is most definitely Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Whether that be they trade him somewhere or just cut him outright, but he's definitely gone. Didn't even go.
I would try to get something for him. I would try to get something.
I just don't.
What's his trade value?
It's very small.
I think you get. I think the high end is like a fourth, and that's high. Because I mean, at the end of the day, he still has a 1 year and a team option, because he was a first round pick. So I mean, you at least have some control for more than one season at a decent price for a running back. So I mean, I think you get to a team that values that a little more than drafting someone. They're going to get something like that. But that's why I say I'm sure they're already starting to shop him around, and if nothing like that kind of fruition, he's gone, because Yeah, I mean they need him. He feel like it was a healthy scratch for the whole playoffs, and I think they have a pretty good featured guy with Pacheco, and I see probably trying to bring in back, and then maybe trying to find a third piece, whether that be some veteran or someone in the draft, because this is a pretty deep draft in my opinion for running backs too. Because there's plenty of guys that were pretty good, pretty beastly in college that are looking at day 3 type selections. I mean, hell, Pacheco was taken in the 7th round, so I trust his draft study and in terms of where he targets guys to find the right replacement to move on Clyde. Now, take running back in the first round this year. I'm gonna be a little pissed off, but I have some mocks have Robinson going to the Chiefs, but that'd be
Oh, that's too funny.
I would be elated if they got Hyatt, but
listen, like I said, I have to block you on Twitter for like 24 hours. You're going to be insufferable. If I thought Rich was going to be insufferable on Sawbridge, you're going to be insufferable if y'all get Hyatt over us. I need a minute.
I'm really pulling for Nolan Smith.
Listen, matter of fact, put my leave request in for the week after the draft if they get Hyatt.
Hyatt or Adden, right? Yeah.
Right. I'm putting it on the calendar right now. When they draft Hyatt over us, I'm putting my leave request in for the week. I'm gonna need a minute.
Need a minute. I mean, there was reports. I read reports. It was AJ Brown himself on some podcast, but he said before he was traded to the Chiefs, saying someone else tried to get a deal done. So I hear news like that, and I'm supposed to say think they don't want some clear target guy. So I mean, I see them if they don't get Juju back. This is kind of two ways I see it. If they get Juju back, then one, that means not a lot of people were valuing him that high. They got him at a price, and I see him kind of taking the same committee approach that they've done. If they don't get him back, I see them being aggressive, whether that's someone like a DeAndre Hopkins or something like that, or maybe even moving up a few spots in the draft to get someone to bring in solidified, number one guy to go with be 1A, 1B Kelsey. But it's kind of going to depend on what happens with Juju.
Yeah, it'll be a sad day, DZ. I'm telling you, it'll be a sad day. And it's funny because you would think that why would anybody want to help the Super Bowl champions to trade up? Too, that's another thing. But it's stranger things have happened.
It's it draft night, dude. Feel like anything, just last minute. People don't want to take for value, and they're let's move, let's do it.
Right.
But
it's
I think traded up with the Bills. I think the Chiefs traded up Bills this last draft to get McDuffie. So or maybe they jumped the Bills. I think they jumped.
They did jump the Bills. Yeah. Craziness.
So I think that's I like I said earlier, this is what makes this time of year so interesting, is that everything is wide open. The one thing we do know pretty, roughly is the areas that we need to work on as a team. But it's always interesting to start, throwing ideas out there and that sort of thing in terms of figuring out where things go.
Drafting KC too, so live show perhaps on site.
All right. So I think that that's about going to do it for the show today, ladies and germs. I appreciate all of you for joining us today. And we're going to have more great content for you.
Burl on us, man. Ladies and germs, man. I haven't heard that in 50 years. So.
Well, I'm an old soul at heart. I throw out the old verbiage every once in a while here just to mix it up, show the depth of vocabulary, and go from there. But
touché en répertoire and foyer.
Mais oui. So, Madame et Messieurs, no, I'm just kidding. Thank you for joining us this evening, guys. I promise no more French. No need to show off or confuse. I appreciate you all for joining us. We're going to dive right into some really, really interesting and great content as we go forward. Probably going to also bring in a few of our upcoming seasonal opponents. We're going to start talking about some of the things that they're going to be doing in the off season. Also, some of our upcoming opponents in the next season, if they made big moves that happen in the off season, we'll definitely bring some guys to talk about that, so we can kind of get into those details. Always love talking football. Keep those questions coming and start preparing some additional questions. And if you guys want us to really dig in on something with each of our teams or whatever changes we're making, or if you want us to try and get a specific guest on from another podcast or something like that to try to get some insider info, please reach out to any of us on either of our social medias, and we will do our level best to make that happen. And until next week, where the West Side is the best side, peace.